we were really planning on the first, installments of revenue, if like, coming in April and May. That didn't happen. The original Contractors Direct brand that I really liked. I thought it was neat. It was smart.
I think we all did.
But apparently it was, what did he say?
Temu.
Temu, yeah.
Temu.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Turnkey and Trimmings. I'm David Cook, the Chief Everything Officer at Contractors Direct.
And I'm Barry Cummings. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Contractors Direct.
So what we wanted to do with this being the very first podcast, rather than have any guests on, I thought it might actually be useful for someone watching and listening to actually understand the background and the origins of Contractors Direct. So how we all started, where we started, what the journey has been, where we are today, and hopefully what we plan to be and become in the next 1, 2, 3 years. Is that okay with you?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I guess maybe a little bit of background to start with. I'll try and keep it to 60 seconds. So I arrived in the UAE, 2009, I think. No, 2008. So I arrived in 2008 and set up my first company here, which was a project management consultancy called Project Partners. That grew, became very successful, and was acquired in 2019. The tail end of 2019. So I had 10 years of local experience in identifying the good from the bad contractors, project management experience, understanding what the nuances are and were of the various different developers and project types. And then that takes me up to when we launched Contractors Direct. What about you, Baz?
So I have been here 20 years this August.
Show
I came just a little bit before you, although I think I did meet you quite soon after you got off the plane.
Yeah.
And my background has always been in the technology digital space. And so I was working previously with Microsoft and understanding how a corporate worked. I worked with their partners on the ground over here. And then I got into the digital marketing space back in 2008, 2009, I think it was, where I first encountered the whole digital space, how to make money online. I went along to a few events that showed you how to make money whilst you slept and thought, oh, this sounds good, but too good to be true. But to be fair, my mentor taught me how to make money online. I followed what they said, made a couple of dollars, so realized that you could do it. Then built a digital marketing agency because it went from affiliate marketing to people asking me to do some consultancy for them to, well, you've built our digital strategy. Can you execute on the strategy? So I built a digital agency, exited from that. And about the time I got out of that, our paths crossed again.
Yes. Yeah. So in January 2020, so let's go back. So Contractors Direct, the theory of what the problem solves, I had the idea in early 2019 because there was no one really willing to put their neck on the line and build a platform that says, hey, here's all the good contractors of the UAE. This is the due diligence or the criteria for the contractors that are on the platform. And I thought, why not? Because, it's very much needed. And so I had the idea and I tested the idea with a very simple WordPress website under a different name at the time. And the response was absolutely fantastic. Now, the challenge I had was I understood project management. I understood renovation, retrofits, and everything else. I had no idea of the digital space. So when I guess the proof of concept had been completed, it was very much a thumbs up. So when the project management consultancy I was running at the time was acquired, I then had the time, the resource, the money to actually go and see this theory and this proof of concept. Can I turn it into something bigger and better? The only challenge is that, as I mentioned, I didn't know a great deal about anything to do with marketing, really, outside of talking to people.
There was also the timing.
Yeah. Timing was absolutely awful. Great for us.
Yeah.
Terrible for the market. So, we launched the first version of the website in January of 2020 when really there was only a little bit of online press about what was happening overseas, mainly in China, I think it was with COVID. But then fast forward 2 months, we weren't allowed to leave our house, which was, a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing because actually there were no blessings. I got to spend more time with my kids. There we go.
Yeah.
I got to spend more time with my kids and my wife.
Yeah.
And my wife. Yeah,
there were blessings, and it was. And I think my youngest is just born, and so that was one of those things where usually, as well, say stereotypically, I was out of the house working and whatnot. I was there. I was actually sharing my office, was also my second born's bedroom at the time. So I had to swap around nap time as when I could go into the office and when I couldn't. So it was, it was an interesting time, but it did give space to actually then evaluate what was kind of going on. We'd had the initial start to what Contractors Direct was, and then there was a lot of focus time, although not great for us in terms of our company and what we do relies on being able to leave the house, first of all, not having to, go online and ask for permission to go to the supermarket, which I remember doing. But it did give us time to look at what was happening and refine a little bit. And we managed to ride out those 2 years, I think it was.
By the skin of our teeth. I think we had to beg, borrow and steal pretty much to get through. I remember the tail end of 2020. So just to give you some context, we obviously wrote a business plan for 2020, and we had very, very solid evidence that would suggest that we were going to start generating revenue from month 3 and month 4, which would have been April and May. And so we were balancing the books, if you like. We had a finite amount of money. We had staff. We had, obviously marketing and advertising expenses. But we were really planning on the first, installments of revenue, if you like, coming in April and May. That didn't happen. And mainly because we weren't even allowed back into our offices, right? But until, I think that was May when Dubai finally turned around and said 30% of your workforce can come back. I think. Right. But even then, people were renegotiating their rents with their landlords and so on and so forth. But like Barry was saying, the good thing about 2020 was that thankfully we had enough data for us to be able to essentially make the business better. And we had the time to make the business better as well. So it was evaluating the data that we've got, so how people use the website, how they found us, the marketing messaging. And then I suppose it was about refining what we had already built to make it more suitable when the market bounced back. And the market didn't bounce back, unfortunately.
For a lot longer than we would have liked.
It was. I remember saying, it's only a couple more weeks. And that couple more weeks turned into about a couple of years, wasn't it? So it was pretty painful. But, whilst there's, a lot of other businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs, even employees, they lost their jobs, they closed their businesses. I think we were very fortunate that, we had made the adjustments within our families and made the adjustments within the company as well, because we had moved to a co-working space so that we could pay monthly and all the other stuff. We just about made it through, because even 2021, 2020 was a loss. 2021 was a loss. 22 marginal just profit, wasn't it? I think it was maybe 80,000 dirham profit.
It was the start of the upward trend, though. Definitely.
I think that the market was now responding nicely to what we had, or what we had built and the problem we were solving. And then 23 was the first year where I think we sat down and thought, holy smokes, we've got something. Because businesses were now ready to spend. The property market, residential was going bananas. It was, when did the Russia-Ukraine war kick off? Was that 23? It's about February, March of 23, I think.
Or maybe even before that. It's been, what, are we 25? Around then.
It was about then. Because we had a huge influx of people looking for luxury residential. And that really, really helped. And then off the back of the success of 2023, off the data that we were able to get from all of the website traffic and the performance of contractors and the trends and all the rest of it, 2024, I think, was really the big year of change.
Yeah, definitely. I think because 23 gave us that information where we realized that there was a lot more to it than we had even thought back in 2020 when everything started, is that the model we'd put in place and everything that we kind of researched said, well, we're working to this kind of business model. And then as we got more and more information through that year, we said, oh, that business model isn't necessarily true. And we were looking at sort of low volume, high ticket price. And then as we got more and more of that information, we said, actually, there's high volume, high ticket price. We can do something here, and all of that data coming in. And we did so much refining through 23 and testing, and that was in the UAE, but also we did go further afield at that point as well, just to see, okay, this platform that we've built, does it work in this marketplace? Yes, it does to a certain extent. Does it work in other marketplaces? And so we did sort of branched out and did our own research into a super developed market. We did some testing in Singapore. We looked at the Saudi market just to see how they would react. And it was always really interesting to get that information. This is my side of the business, the way that people react to the message, react to the data, and then react to the sales call when the guys are calling them back, and the difference between when they call them back in Singapore versus the difference when they call them back in Saudi, and saying, okay, that's good to know. Put that into what we're doing. And that really fueled into 2024, where with all that information, we were also able to make more decisions internally to say, you know what, let's really drill into the UAE. We thought we were doing well, and we were, but there was still so much opportunity, and still so much opportunity to refine what we were actually offering to the market. And that's where I think 2024, we really dug into that to push the company forwards.
24 was a massive year. It was a massive year for a lot of reasons. And I think all of the information and data we got from 23 gave us the opportunity to really assess, okay, what were we successful at in 23? What did people think they were buying before they came to us? What was the product they got? Were they happy? And what adjustments do we need to make? But then I think one of the key things we did when we sat down early 24, we had to look at, okay, we know what we did well. We know the things we need to improve on. But when you have a look at what the business can become, and at the point, we had less than 0.001 of the market share, I think, and we had a good year. So it was how can we position the business, the tech and everything else to actually be able to cope and handle scale? Because at 24, once we had all that data and we spoke to, a couple of different companies and people to get their feedback who are, topical experts. So 24, let's list off the things that we did. We had to rebrand.
Oh yeah.
Because we were told that the original Contractors Direct brand that I really liked. I thought it was neat. It was smart.
I think we all did.
But apparently it was, what did he say?
Temu,
Temu,
we were the Temu of what we were offering.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, Temu has a place, but that's not where we want it to be.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, you need to appeal more to your ideal clients. So who is that ideal client? Create the avatar. How do they buy? And then design, the website around that. We migrated the website. In fact, almost the entire business over to HubSpot, right?
Yeah, everything shifted at that point. Yeah.
So that was brilliant advice. And that was, let's shout out to the Digital Nexa boys for the advice. We switched over to HubSpot. So the website's built on HubSpot, CRM, marketing, all of that kind of stuff. What else did we do? Oh, we tried the other countries, like you said. So it was Saudi, Singapore, Malaysia, or Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah. And Australia.
Australia, the response there was fantastic. What else did we do?
Well, we grew the team significantly as well.
Oh, crikey. Yeah,
that was in terms of,
What did we started the year on 8, I think, didn't we, of 2024? We finished on 16 and we're now almost 20. Yeah.
So and that's, I think, in terms of building a business, it's something that I've heard on other podcasts as well. Stephen Bartlett's talked about a few of them, just getting the right people in place. And what does a CEO or a co-founder or a C-level person responsible for? And finding the right people is key.
Yeah.
You talk about challenges and you talk about how to grow, but if you find the right people to do the right things, then it makes that growth so much easier, because you realize, I can take a couple of hats off now and give it to people that know what they're doing, know far better than I about these areas, and go nuts. Yeah.
I think one of the important lessons, if you like, is it a lesson or advice? I think it was advice, is try and hire people that like and trust. And I think the only way that works is if you've actually worked directly or indirectly with those people. And just thinking out loud now, we joined forces, we worked together because, you were very kind in the early years to say, these are the things that you're doing well, these are the things you need to improve on. This is where you should be advertising and marketing, many years ago. So we worked together before. I worked with Jenny at Project Partners. I've worked with Halen, Razik. I know Razik was, he was one of the early boys at Contractors Direct. But I think when you have a look at the team that we've got now, there aren't that many people. You can probably count on one hand that came as a result of a job ad on LinkedIn. Everybody else was either a recommendation. Yeah, and we've got a really good team.
Brilliant team.
Really good
Brilliant team. And like I said, I think they're all, we did go through some of the employment routes and we put stuff out there in terms of, job positions to fill. But I think you're right. I think actually everybody that's joined was a recommendation or, I know somebody for, even, one of our key guys, Abu.
I was just about to say, Nasir recommended Abu.
Yeah.
Abu then recommended Amit.
Yeah.
And who else? So Halen then recommended, so I wanted to bring Halen in because his work ethic is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. And he was like, hey, I've worked with this guy in the past. He's absolutely fantastic. And I was like, great, bring him on. Yeah. He's like, no, you need to meet him as well. I said, no, I trust you.
Yeah.
Just bring him on. But no, it's a good team. And I think hiring people that like and trust is important. If I don't know that person, the person that I know, like, and trusts knows, likes, and trusts that guy. It's like, okay, it works.
I think also an important thing to say from how we do this is that, a lot of companies, they look for, we need a marketing manager, we need a general manager, and they go looking for that job title. Whereas we've always taken that approach of, when you know and trust somebody and they say, well, that guy's pretty good or that girl's pretty good, we have that conversation. And again, this is Abu, to a T, is that we had that initial conversation, we had those interviews, and then afterwards, when Abu was like, right, well, we need to employ him, but to do what? What's the job title? Because there's so many things that he can do, and there's so many different things that can be attended to, and then we pretty much had to make up a job title and say, please, do you want to come and join us?
Unfortunately, the DMCC didn't recognize Swiss Army Knife as a job title, but
I think it's really because you do employ people to do roles as opposed to they equal that job role, or they have that title and they have experience in that. So some people that don't have any experience in the role that you need, but they have a skill set that can be applied to it, and I think that's why we have a really good mix of people that are also able and willing to say, I'm here to do this role, but I have experience in doing this. I know how to set up podcasts. I know how to do this, and they do it.
Yeah. No, I think being multifaceted, especially when you're a startup scale up, and it's a bit tongue in cheek when when I gave myself the title Chief Everything Officer, because I do feel like I participate in most areas of the business.
Yeah, sometimes I wish you wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, mate. But it's I wouldn't say it's all part of the learning, right? If when you get to a certain size, you no longer overhear conversations, and you haven't really got your finger on the pulse, so you have to get involved. And you do find yourself learning as you're going along. But there's doing it out of necessity and doing it out of want. I think, are probably two different things.
Very much so.
And unfortunately, you can't have 2 or 3 chief everything officers in a company. So that title's mine, buddy.
Yeah.
So 2025, Baz, what are the targets for 2025?
Well, there's lofty targets in terms of number of white label partners out there and really going out to market and seeing how many I think that we've put down. We want to have at least 10.
10 closed
and then more in the pipeline. Yeah. But then, you alluded to it before as well, but it's also to really solidify the digital platform in terms of how much opportunity is there through the search platforms. We've done a good job so far of optimizing there, but there's more that can be done. So there's a huge target in place there to really, as much as possible, get to 100% of what's available in search traffic coming through our platform. And then there's also big plans to get some of the offline marketing working as well, so that we, wherever you look, you will see Contractors Direct. We want to be synonymous with anything to do with renovation and fit out. And if you're listening to the radio, you're driving on the roads, you're on the digital platforms, you're going to see us around there. And that's just to make sure that we're top of mind when you or someone is looking for that contractor. Because to round this off and go full circle back to the beginning, one of the reasons that Contractors Direct came out was because there was such a lack of focus and ability for people to get good contractors. you were always being asked in your PM days, well, who should I use for this? Who should I use for this? And you were flinging out numbers left, right, and center of good people. And you went through the process. So why is everyone asking me? Surely there must be other resources, but there weren't, and there hasn't been since. And it's to really give that peace of mind to the client. Look, we are doing the due diligence. We'll go and check the contractors to make sure that they meet a certain criteria. And then when we introduce you to them, we're putting our reputation on the line, saying, no, these are, air quotes, good contractors because they meet certain criteria. They've done these kind of projects before. Whereas you go back, 6, 7, 8 years up to there wasn't, you would get the guys that say, yeah, we can do that. And you turn up with a spinny's bag and full of spanners and say, I'm here to renovate your house. Like,
sandals and pajamas.
Have you got any other people? Have you got
By the way, they're still around.
Oh, they're still
around. You
sure.
see them on their bicycles cycling around different communities. But
and they can do some amazing things from a maintenance perspective, especially those guys, but completely retrofitting your 4-bed villa, I would hazard a guess you probably can't. And you wouldn't want that.
Though.
Oh, for sure, it'd be the cheapest. But, we've seen it over the years as well, that sometimes the cheapest isn't always the best option.
No, it's never the best, actually.
And often we as a business can help the client understand why they have come in so cheap in comparison, and usually identify what's missing, because that's usually the case. They've just not quoted correctly. They're not really... you think you've asked for this and they're giving you, you've asked for A, they're giving you a Z, and you're thinking, oh, that's a really good price for if I'm going to get this, but you never do.
No, you never do. And that's why you need a set of experienced professional eyes to go over everything. And I think just to reiterate, one thing we haven't touched on is the actual due diligence of the contractors, because, with my experience and now the project team's experience, I think that the youngest PM we have on board with the least amount, if you can say that, of experience is 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's a tremendous amount of experience in the UAE.
Yeah.
So the due diligence process, first of all, we want to see that the company is at least 3 years old. Now, the reason why that's important is you get a lot of high achieving employees that are at parts of big organizations that think, I can do this. Why am I making this guy or this girl all this money when I can do it for myself? And then when they leave and they set up their own company, they realize, the reason why that business was so successful was because they hired great people. Yeah. There was a framework, there was a structure, there were processes. And it generally tends to be that if you are going to fail, you're going to fail in the first 2 years. 2 to 3 is very rocky. 3 onwards, you've normally got a pretty solid operation set up. So 3, we check the trade license, make sure they're at least 3 years old. We check to make sure that the trade activities that they'd be undertaking for our clients reflect on the trade license. Then we check their insurance copies. That's the super simple basic stuff. We then interview the company owners, just to ask questions about where they've been, what are their plans, what do they do in-house versus subcontract. We then interview 3 to 5 clients from the last 12 months. Yeah. Now, the last 12 months is important because that gives us a real good indication of how they are currently performing. We can't really consider projects that are longer than 1 year old because businesses change, markets change, economies change. So it's important to see how are they currently performing today. And then once we've got those clients to score the contractors on a scale of 1 to 10 for quality, cost, communication, customer service, and timely delivery, we will then go and see one of those completed projects. And we go around and with a critical eye, but obviously there's an element of tolerance built in there as well. We'll then score the actual renovation work. We'll compare the BOQ that the client signed with the products that were installed. We just want to make sure that the contractor was fair and reasonable with their, the proposal and the execution, but actually the execution was done to high standards and it's likely to last longer than 12 months, And then that's pretty much it. Now, the criteria, we've been told is too strict and is too rough. Rough? Thorough. It had an O, U, G, and H. It's too strict and it's too thorough. But it's too strict and too thorough for a reason. If we want to isolate the best performing contractors, it doesn't mean they're expensive, by the way. It just means that they're excellent value for money. It has to be strict. And, at the moment, well, certainly since we started this, it's still 2 out of 3 companies that apply are failing. It doesn't mean that they can't ever be part of the platform. It just means that there are elements of what you're doing that don't meet our standards. Here's the areas that you fall down. Focus on those areas, improve, come back in 6 months, and you should be able to join the platform. We were even told, actually by a project manager for one of the contractors recently, that company does a better job with our clients than they do for their own organic clients, which is great. You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you,
But it comes back to your point of, what is acceptable as good quality here is unfortunately
the bar is
so low. And that's why I say, well, no, we will hold you to a higher standard, and we need you to maintain that standard over the period of time that you're on the platform, because that it works for everybody, because it brings the standard up across the market, not necessarily the price, because people are saying, you're just it just brings the standard of quality up, so that, again, what we really are helping our clients with, and whether it's a white label or it's us directly, is that peace of mind. It's like, look, we've done all this hard work of going and doing the due diligence and visiting these sites. And, when somebody's searching for it, they're looking at all the names of the contractors. And if you might not even be in the region. So again, it's just a list of names. I don't know any of them from Adam. They say they were good, but which business goes to market and says, we're not that good at what we do, but we're all right. Yeah. Every business goes out there and says, look, we're awesome. We're good at this. We're good at that. Well, let us do a little bit of the research to just make sure that that's true, especially when it comes to your home at the end of the day, or the office that you're going to be spending quite a bit of money on, and making it the office you want it to be. Yeah, 100%. The most commonly asked question, in fact, this is the other thing that we did in 2024. Crikey, man, we did so much in 24. No wonder tired.
So the most common asked question was, how much is it going to cost? That's the most common, closely followed by, how long is it going to take? And how long it takes largely depends on the building, the district, the trade license, the building management company. So there are nuances. It could be as quick as 8 weeks. It could take 20, obviously, depending on those. But the cost is relatively consistent. And, whether it's a cost of an office, cost of a restaurant, the cost of a villa, landscaping, whatever it is. And we actually built a calculator. So it's a free tool on the Contractors Direct website. Just scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, and it is consistently correct to within 5%. Now, the reason why I say that is, so first of all, we took the whole of 2023's proposals. We took all of 2024's proposals up until the end of Q3. And then we basically categorized them into, first of all, what was the project type, office, restaurant, retail, etc. And then what we'd, decided it to be, whether it was low to mid to high, as far as specifications was concerned. And then we threw all of that into the mix, I'll call it. Threw it all into the mix, and someone way smarter than me managed to make sense of that data and now put it into a very, very smart, accurate calculator. So if you scroll down to the calculator, you just select the project type, you put in how many square feet, you select the service you want, and then when you click calculate, it will actually tell you how much you should be prepared to spend based on that criteria. Some clients are, they look at it, they're like, oh, that's less than I thought. Not many, admittedly.
That doesn't happen often. I was going to say, it's usually the other way around.
the company adjusted it. They're like, oh, we got more money than that. I was, okay, well, increase the specification. But a lot of the time, people say, oh, it's mid-range. I want to go for the mid-spec. When you go for the mid-spec and you say, look, it's going to be about 1 million dirhams. And then they say, I don't have 1 million dirhams. Well, no worries. Let's have a look at what low to mid-spec is. So when you put low to mid-spec in, it'll be like 820 to 860 or something like that. And they're like, yeah, that's the budget I've got. Brilliant. We're on the money, Yeah. So the calculator is free to use. Go to the homepage, scroll down, and just get an idea of how much you should be prepared to spend, the types of budget that you need for a good quality execution, good specification by a good, competent, pre-qualified contractor.
Good advice.
Thanks.
It's like you do this for a living.
I know. Who would have known? I think we've covered just about everything as far as where we've been, what we've done, what we're planning to do. What about new countries? I know that we tested a lot of countries last year. Singapore responded amazing. Extremely expensive cost per click, but people knew what they were buying.
Yeah, there's no education piece there. They got it.
They're on the money. Kuala Lumpur was great.
Yep.
The response there was fantastic. Saudi Arabia was interesting.
It was interesting, yeah.
Most of the people thought we were the contractor, right?
There's a big education piece required there, but what we did see was the size of the projects that were coming through.
Yeah, they were massive.
Significantly larger than the projects we were doing here. And for those that were and understood what we were doing, we thought there's huge opportunity there. So Saudi is still very much, we see it with very close proximity. We see what's going on there. We hear the good, we hear the bad as well. And so we're making some decisions about moving into that area. But it was very enlightening when we had our team on the ground there and we literally received the lead form, call back the person, and then they would say, no, I didn't fill it out. Like,
yeah. And you're like, well, I've got your number.
Literally minutes.
Your name is Mohammed, right? Yeah, that's me. Okay.
No, I didn't fill it out.
This form.
Okay, thank you very much. So
a couple of people I've spoken to about the Saudi market say that it's very, very similar to what Dubai was between 2004 and 2008. I wasn't here in 2004, 2008. I arrived actually at the peak of the crash, ironically, so it could only go up. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I got here 2005 and everything was on there, and that was full time. And I'd been coming to the region probably since the mid-90s, actually.
Wow.
My family's been here for a long, long time. So yeah, I would agree with that. And it's still very much the Wild West to a certain extent. Of there's things happening, things that from an external perspective, you think, how is that happening? Or how have we ended up in this situation? And it's to do with the maturation of the market. And even here, 20 years ago, it was a very different market and things were happening. And again, it's evolved. And it's something that I'm consciously aware of. People complain a lot about this part of the world and why things don't work a certain way. But then you look at how young the country is and how much progress has been made in such a short period of time. That's actually the amazing thing to me to see, well, we can do this here. Yeah. And there's that energy, there's that vibe here in the UAE, but also makes you believe, we can expand into other parts of the GCC. We're testing it. It's not that we just think, we know what we're doing here, we can do it there, but we are building a template to be able to move it into a different location and then have that 20% for localization, but know that we can make it work. And the opportunity here is still huge in this part of the world, in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia offers a really interesting next step potentially in terms of what's happening, what they project out to the world, the development that we see going on there, and then the service offering that we can put into place there. So it's going to be exciting for sure. Yeah,
when we did our research last year, so after the kind of like the online market testing and everything else, I reached out to contractors that were recommended to me in Riyadh and Dammam, and then contractors that I found online. And it seemed that all of the good contractors, and they were, some of them were born in the UAE and then they set up another branch over there. They were busy. Like they were, they're like, yep, Contractors Direct idea, business model is fantastic, but we can't take any leads on until next summer because we're full. Yeah. And we're like, holy smokes, have you got a small team? Nope, we're 300 people. Yeah. Like, geez, and that's the same for these guys, is the same for these guys. So good people will always be busy, right? Yeah. So I think you just need to be wary of someone who could start tomorrow.
Maybe not as good as they say they can be.
Yeah, exactly. So Saudi Arabia may or may not be on the cards for 2025. I think we've got our work cut out for us here in the UAE.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. The opportunity here is still massive for us to refine. And, in terms of visions of the future and what we're trying to do, well, we want to be omnipresent. We want to be known as the brand to come to when it comes to fit out and renovations, commercial, residential, F&B, whatever it is, and whatever the requirement is. We have a very specific service offering, but what we're looking at doing now is to become synonymous with that. Is that, well, if any idea or any area of the fit out or renovation process, well, just come to the Contractors Direct guys. Yeah. They're going to be able to either help with what they offer as a core service, or know where to point us. Yeah. And they will have, and if they are pointing us in a certain direction to a certain provider or a certain company, it's because, back to how we employ, you know them, you like them, and you trust them. Yeah. And that applies in that business sense as well. So that's where we're aiming. The goals are lofty. The ambition is huge within what we're doing, but also realistic. And even though they're ambitious, we'll get there. And when we do, they'll be like, wow,
yeah,
pretty impressive.
Yeah. I think I'm hoping that 2025 is going to be almost a repeat of 2024 as far as we achieve more than what we set out to achieve by the year.
Yeah.
But I just hope it takes less effort and stress, because at 24 was
I'm not sure
just
that's going to be the
bananas. I mean, what are we now? We're at the end of Q1.
Yeah, coming up to it.
And the number of leads, the number of clients, the number of projects, we've done in one quarter what was pretty much the last 2 quarters of last year.
Yeah.
So it's, not showing any sign of slowing down. Thankfully we've just taken the office next door to what our original office was, and fitted it out. And of course, it's beautiful, done by a competent contractor. So we do have growth and expansion space. So yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to see what comes out of 2025.
Well, definitely. And I think part of what we're going to do is document that. So there's going to be more of these kind of episodes and stuff to just give insight. Yeah, this is on one-off, by the way. You need to schedule this into your diary. But yeah, content creation and bringing people along for the ride, not to do anything other than give insight to what we're doing. And also, we're building a business here, and the entrepreneurial side of things, building a business in the UAE. It's different to building it anywhere else in the world. There's different things, but we'd like to give an insight to what we're doing. The people behind it is us two on this one, but I think during the year there's going to be rotating people. We want to talk to other people as well in industry that can offer insight into some of the things that we are involved with, and some of the things we're not involved with. That we will. Those are kind of the best episodes where we get to sit there and go, and learn and learn and learn.
Yeah,
that's amazing, and making lots of notes. And that's the plan, from a communication side of things, so that people can really get to know the Contractors Direct brand and the people behind it. And this is hopefully episode 1 of many. Yeah.
Well, it depends on the viewership, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it could be. It might just be for us.
The return has got to be worth the investment of time.
I'll be watching it over and over again to get the viewers up.
Get the views up. Well, we started with the Meet the Team series.
Yeah.
That's been pretty popular. That was cool. So I guess this is more a in-depth of potentially, Meet the Team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, whilst we're adopting all the technology, we see what's going on and the automation of things and the integration of AI, is that for at least the foreseeable future, business is still done between people, and giving people a peek behind the scenes of, there are real people behind Contractors Direct, and this is who we are. And, I'm pretty sure that there's the bloopers reel and stuff that's going to come out with it. We don't get it right all the time. And
is there going to be a bloopers reel?
We make mistakes.
I'll be deliberately watching my P's and Q's.
There'll be stuff that, especially when the guys take it and start editing it, like, why are you making that face?
Right.
But it is real people behind it, that we're a business that's scaling, we're growing, and we want to show people what that is and how we are delivering the services that we do, and hopefully making that positive impact, and growing, so that whether you want to watch us on YouTube or listen to us or not, you're gonna, because we're gonna be everywhere.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Awesome, cool. I think we covered everything off that we wanted to cover off in our very first podcast. I think we did pretty well, Baz.
I agree.
Awesome. Okay, brilliant. So that summarizes and is the end to the very first podcast. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, mate.
That's good.
I thought you were brilliant.
I thought you were very good too.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
So I'm not even sure what the next podcast will be or when it will be, but it will be soon, and it will be gripping content. So stick around. If you're looking for pre-vetted and qualified contractors with full project support, please remember, visit www.contractors.direct. If you don't need them, but your friend or colleague does, make sure you send them the link. Thank you very much, guys. See you on the next one.